Orange is the new black is where we dive in. Every episode we'll discuss, even the scenes that made us cuss. So follow me, join the spree. I try to space for 2 E's. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fans, please come on board. Susie's special line and all these ideas, because we make it everything truly as it is. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh.
Hello, and welcome to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a rewatch podcast for the Netflix TV show Orange is the New Black. Every Tuesday, I'll be recapping one episode of the show with you, but please keep in mind that this is a rewatch podcast. That means that there may be spoilers about things that happen in the future episodes, so please be warned. This is definitely a spoiler zone. On today's episode of our Orange is the New Black rewatch, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 6, titled WAC Pack. And that's WAC as in WAC, which stands for the Women's Advisory Council. It's election day in America. I hope you guys all got out to vote and made sure that your voices were heard. It looks like the women of Litchfield will be voting as well. In this episode, we'll be talking about them voting for members of the WAC. The Women's Advisory Council is basically like a board of directors for the inmates. They will have an election in the prison where each group can vote on who they want to represent them. This person will be their representative for whatever issues come up for their community in the prison. The IMDb synopsis for this episode says that the inmates must campaign amongst their races for a coveted spot as a prisoner's representative. Piper steers clear of the bizarre political process, but might not have a choice but to get involved. Larry's editor wants him to write an article about Piper's incarceration. So that's basically what's going to go down. And if I remember correctly, this is a pretty funny episode, so I'm really excited to get into it. We also will be getting some backstories for Nicky as well as Piper and Alex. So those should be interesting. I love how the backstories give us more insight into these ladies. So I'm always excited to see the backstories. I remember Nicky's a little bit. I don't really remember Piper and Alex's. I think Nicky's backstories are some of the more interesting ones for me personally. They kind of help the audience get to know the things that she's been through. And I think that those are the things that make her really human and really relatable and really endearing to the fandom. So I'm looking forward to going over Nicky's first backstory today. This episode was directed by Michael Trim. Now, we've seen him before. As we know, he's best known for his work on other TV shows like Weeds and Parks and Rec. And he was also the director on the very first episode of Orange, as well as episode 4, which was Miss Claudette's backstory episode. If I remember correctly, I think he does a fantastic job with this one. Lauren Morelli is listed as the writer on this episode. She's best known for her work on 26 episodes of Orange, including most of the episodes that we've seen so far. And as I always say, I know that there's more than one person in the writer's room, so I would like to give a shout out to the entire writing team. Thank you all for writing such a great show. You guys told the stories that were not being told, and for that, we thank you. The IMDb rating for this episode is a 7.8. At the end of this pod, I will give my personal episode rating, which I'm pretty sure will be over an 8, just going from my memory of the episode alone. But I encourage you guys to go ahead and write your episode ratings in the comments as well, so that we can get an idea of what we the people think is actually the rating for this episode. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so this episode jumps right into it. The very first thing that we see when the show opens up is Fig, aka Natalie Figueroa. I know we haven't seen her since the very first episode, but she's back. And the first thing that we see in this episode is her putting a printed out picture of a woman's vajayjay down on Caputo's desk. She's telling Caputo that a colleague emailed that picture to her, and it was found on a website called prisonpoon.com, and it was labeled Litchfield Poonanny. Caputo says to her, so does your colleague often browse prisonpoon.com? Because, yeah, word, like, did he just happen to be on there, or is this a regular stop for him in his browsing day? Fig is not amused. She completely ignores his question and she's like, we need to get this under control before the warden finds out. So the issue is, if this picture was up on this website, that means that somebody in this prison, one of the inmates, has a cell phone. And not only do they have a cell phone, they're taking pictures and they're able to put it up on the internet. And that can cause a whole host of problems. So they want to get it under control before the warden finds out. They need to find out who has the phone and get rid of it. Natalie's telling him, look at the tile in the picture. It was for sure taken in this prison. So that means one of the inmates has a cell phone. Caputo's saying, that can't be. My guys literally just searched everything looking for that screwdriver. So I'm pretty sure there's no phones around here. Fig says to Caputo, well, if you think the inmates don't have phones because your guards just did a search, then that means that it's one of your guards and he's taking pictures of the women. And that's an even bigger problem. So you need to figure it out. Caputo promises Fig that he's going to get to the bottom of it. Fig is a rough character. She's one of those characters where, well, for me, I started off not liking her very much. She comes off very harsh, very rough. For me, it's honestly not until one of the very late episodes in season 7 where Fig does something absolutely incredible for one of the women that she's working with, that I have a change of heart for her, where I could finally see that she seems to actually care about the women. I just think that she's become jaded after working in the system for so many years and seeing things not be done to help them, that she's become just sort of cynical and rough around the edges. So while I find her rough in the beginning of the series, I do learn later on that she does have a heart in there. So anyways, when Caputo tells Fig that he will get to the bottom of this and figure out who's taking these pictures and where the cell phone is, that's when Fig tells Caputo, well, I hope so, because it is so depressing dealing with a man who makes less than $40K a year. I was really hoping to get you above that this year. Why do you have to come for his paycheck? Why do you have to shame him about what he's making? But also, bro, why are you making less than $40,000 a year? That seems like an obscenely low salary for someone in this position. If you are working in a prison and you are the head guard, I feel like that's not only a challenging job, but it also can be a dangerous job. So less than $40,000 a year sounds insanely low. He should be getting paid much more than that, in my opinion. In the next scene, we see Mr. Healy. He's finding out about the vajayjay picture that's going around, and he's told that Fig is on the warpath, so he should probably try to hide out in his office today. I don't know if that's going to work out, because as soon as he hits the hallway, he's already face to face with Yoga Jones, and she's got concerns. She's telling him between the Baptists and the addicts, she can't find a peaceful place to meditate on love and acceptance anymore. She says, which her Buddhist faith requires. So little hint, hint, this is a need. This is not a request. So can you figure this out, please? Mr. Healy doesn't even get a chance to respond to Yoga Jones before Tiffany runs up on him and says, we're having a real hard time praising the Lord in front of all these heathens and sinners. Lord Tiffany, she tells Mr. Healy that they need their chapel. It's their God-given right. Mr. Healy doesn't get a chance to answer Tiffany either, because that's when Suzanne comes up to him and she says, hey, Mr. Healy, can you take a look at this? I think it might be the flu. But she's looking down her pants. I guess she's concerned maybe she has a rash or something, but TMI, maybe go to medical. Mr. Healy just sighs, rolls his eyes, and goes into his office, shutting the door behind him and closing the blinds like, no, give me a minute, please. Mr. Healy is in his office. He turns on his light. He lets out this sigh. But that's when Taystee busts in his office talking about, Mr. Healy, the meth head bitches won't let us change the channel. And it's our turn. I can't watch no more toddlers and tiaras. So she's upset. While the other ladies are concerned about their religious freedoms, Taystee's concerned about her TV freedom. And she wants her turn. Mr. Healy doesn't respond. He just sits down and starts rubbing his temples like, oh my God, this is already a lot today. But Taystee persists. She says, don't you triviatize? Triviatize? Is that a word? I think she means trivialize, which we can make our word of the day, trivialize, to make something seem less important, significant, or complex than it really is. So the more you know. Okay. So Taystee tells Mr. Healy, basically, Don't trivialize this, except she says don't triviatize, but you know what she meant. Taystee says, this shit is serious. I won't support the sexuation of baby girls, which again, I agree with the sentiment, but it's not sexuation, it's sexualization. But yes, agreed. In retrospect, that show was doing a lot. So I'm with you on this, Taystee. She says that's some nasty shit, even if some of their sequin dresses do be on point. Word, those outfits were fire, but no. That's when Taystee looks down at Mr. Healy's desk and she notices the picture of the vajayjay sitting there. And she makes this face of disgust and confusion, talking about, are you into some dirty shit, Mr. Healy? Like, what is that and why is it on your desk? He quickly puts it away, covers it up. He's like, you know what? Fine. You have control of the TV schedule from now on. It's all yours. He sends her out the door very happily, but he says, and don't bother me for 24 hours. You know what? Actually, make it 48 hours. Just leave me alone. Taystee does not care. She's like, yes, sir. All she cares about is, I've got control of the TV. I am the TV queen right now, okay? That's a big power in prison. In the next scene, we are in the TV room, and sure enough, the ladies are in there watching Toddlers and Tiaras. That's when Taystee busts in the door and she's like, Planet Earth 24/7, bitches. She has the remote. She puts her feet up on the desk. She is just flaunting her power as she changes the channel to Planet Earth, which I don't know if that would be my first choice, but those nature shows have been known to grab my attention a time or two. So I'm not knocking it. In the next scene, we see Piper and she's sitting with her mom in Visitation, looking very annoyed. Her mom is criticizing her hair, comparing it to how nicely Polly had her hair the other day. Wonderful, Mom. So glad to hear that. I'm in prison. Polly's outside. I'm glad that her hair was nice, but is this a helpful thing that you're saying? Piper is surprised that her mom saw Polly, so she asks her, why did you see Polly? Her mom explains that she stopped by Polly's to drop off a baby gift, and that's when Polly told her about that little chicken situation that she had. And that's when Piper quickly interjects, like, is that what she called it? Like, did she call it a little chicken situation? Like, that was a big deal for me. Let's use our word of the day. Did she trivialize it? Piper's mom completely ignores her question and concern and jumps into what she wants to say, which is, while Piper's mom thinks that it's none of her business, she does take the time to tell Piper that she thinks that Piper owes Polly an apology. To which Piper says, I have been trying to apologize. Honestly, I don't remember what for. What did Piper do to Polly? Oh, because she totally flaked out on the whole call with Weiner. So that's why, which I can understand that. That's a bad look for them and their business. So yeah, I think I would be mad too. Piper says, I've been calling her a lot, but she won't answer the phone. Piper's mom takes her hand and she says, I need you to be very honest with me right now. Are you losing it in here? Because we're very worried about you. There are medications, which honestly, being in prison sounds absolutely horrible. I think she should take any medication that's available to her to make the time go easier. I don't know how she's doing this without any kind of medication, but okay. Piper says, while looking absolutely crazy in the eyes, her eyes are wide and wild, and she just looks so expressive. But she says, I am not crazy. I am surrounded by crazy, and I am trying to climb Mount Everest in flip-flops, but I am not going crazy, okay? Even though she looks a little crazy to me, but okay. We'll go with you, Piper. That's when Piper's mom says to her, honey, nobody would blame you if you were going crazy, okay? She's like, you're incarcerated. God only knows the emotional toll that it must take to be in here with that woman. I guess she's talking about Alex. To which Piper says, she is the least of my problems. And her mom quickly says, she is your entire problem. She's like, if it wasn't for her, you would be home trying on wedding dresses, growing your business, giving me grandchildren. Of course, it comes back to her, right? Piper's mom tells her that Alex stole all of that from her. And also probably a little bit from the mom as well, since she threw that little grandchildren thing in there. It seems like that's just as upsetting to her as anything that Alex may have done to Piper. This is when Piper tries to bring her mom back to reality. She's like, listen, mom, I need you to hear what I'm about to say. Are you listening? She says, I am in here because I am no different from anybody else in here. True. Her mom scoffs. She's like, you could never be like any of these people. Piper continues. She's like, I made bad choices. I committed a crime. And being in here is no one's fault but my own. Way to take accountability, Piper. It's true. You made the choice. You did the thing. You are the reason why you're in here. I still say Alex didn't need to name you, but you did the crime and now you're doing the time. Good for you on taking the accountability for that, and also for not seeing yourself as any different from anybody else in there. We all make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes come with heavy consequences. All the people in here are paying those consequences. But Piper's mom is not ready to accept this accountability. She says, honey, if that lawyer, and Piper cuts her off and she's like, Howard, Larry's father's name is Howard. It's kind of like her father-in-law. It's her boyfriend's father. He does have a name. Put a little bit of respect on that. Let's call him by his name, please. Piper's mom ignores that correction and just continues. She says, you would have never ended up in here if you'd gone to trial. Piper's mom tells her, sweetheart, you're nothing like any of these women. So basically the subtext of what she's saying is, if Piper, nice young white girl, blonde hair, would have went to trial, a jury would have said, she doesn't deserve to go to prison. She made a mistake. Basically, her mom thinks that Piper would have benefited from taking the case to trial because a jury would have probably given her a pass due to her white privilege, which I don't think that she's wrong on that. She probably is right. There's a good chance that somebody may have had pity on her, being that it was the first offense. So I don't think her mom is too far off base with that. But again, if Piper would have went to trial and got off due to her white privilege, we wouldn't have a show. So again, I'm sorry, Piper, but you need to stay here and do this thing. Do your time, girl. Take your accountability. In the next scene, we see Porn Stash, aka Mendez. I might need to start changing the name that I use for him to Mendez, because even though you and I both think Porn Stash first, the internet does not like the use of the word Porn Stash. So I don't know. I might need to start calling him Mendez. So anyways, we see Mendez, and as he's approaching the building, he sees Caputo through the windows searching people. He's going through some man's bag, probably looking for the cell phone. Mendez looks worried and he turns to go back to his car. I guess he needs to get rid of something. When Mendez gets back to his car, we see that he opens the trunk. He opens up the little brown paper bag that he has, and he takes out a baggie full of some white stuff and puts it in the trunk. I'm assuming drugs of some sort. So Mendez was at least one of the guards responsible for bringing drugs into the prison. Not a cell phone, but drugs, which is extremely dangerous, but we'll get there. In the next scene, we see Nicky. She's looking through the glass into the visitation room. Apparently, she had been standing there watching Piper's visit with her mom. When Piper comes out of the visitation room, she walks up to Nicky and Nicky says, you look like her. To which Piper says, yeah, that's what I'm told. She looks annoyed. Nicky's like, you don't think so? You don't think you look like her? And Piper says, I prefer to be in denial about the shared genetics. Nicky says, well, you are in denial about a lot of things, Blondie. Piper says, I'm a WASP. That's what we do. And if you don't know what a WASP is, it's an acronym that stands for White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. According to Google, they are a group of social white Protestants in the United States, and they are often of British descent and typically wealthy and well-connected. So that's a WASP. The more you know. So Piper says, I'm a WASP. That's what we do, which I think that is a stereotype for WASPs. So that's one of the first stereotypes that we're getting in this episode. This episode will come with a lot of stereotypes. So I guess the first one we're getting is of a particular group of white people, the WASPs. As we've said, a lot of stereotypes can be very damaging to the group of people that they're talking about. But in this episode and all throughout this show, we're going to hear a ton of stereotypes. And because the stereotypes are spread out throughout all groups, and because this is a work of fiction, I will be talking about them. That does not mean that I agree with them. I think personally we should not be making all of these broad statements about any particular group. That's really not fair. No particular group is a monolith. But anyways, let me step off of my soapbox and continue this awesome episode. Piper asks Nicky, "Are you waiting for somebody?" To which Nicky says, "Nah, I wouldn't want to ruin my 4-month dry spell." Sounds like Nicky hasn't gotten a visitor in quite a while. She looks really sad. I don't think Piper is really acknowledging Nicky's sadness here. I think she's more concerned about her difficult relationship with her mom. So she responds and says, "Yeah, well, after that visit, that's starting to sound appealing." Which I understand in Piper's shoes how that might sound appealing, a little break from her mom. But I can also understand how that might hit Nicky's ear. Sounds kind of insensitive, like at least you've got a mom, you know? Exactly. Nicky says to her, "Look, don't say ungrateful crap like that around here, okay? Your mother shows up, she buys you pretzels, poor you." Piper kind of tries to defend her stance there. She says, "We all have our shit, Nicky. Like, you know, my life's not all roses." But Nicky says, "Yeah, but some shit stinks worse than other shit, princess." True. Some stuff is really tough. It's hard to compare apples and oranges, but I agree with Nicky. Some shit stinks worse than others. Some stuff is just worse. Piper says, "You don't know how my shit smells. Like, you don't know what I go through. You don't know how that woman is to me." Nicky says, "Sure I do." She leans into Piper and she sniffs her. She says, "Your shit smells like Shalimar. It must have rubbed off when she hugged you goodbye." What a bitch. Like, ugh, poor you, Piper. Poor you. Your mom is so horrible. Yet she came to visit you and gave you a hug. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. Meanwhile, Nicky's mom hasn't come to see her in 4 months. So, yeah, some shit stinks different than others. That leads us into our first Nicky flashback. We see Nicky laying in a hospital bed. She's kind of out of it. And her mom is tapping her saying, Nicole, wake up." Nicky wakes up. She says, "Mom?" I guess she didn't realize that her mom was there. As soon as her mom realizes that she's, awake, she starts telling Nicky that she has a bacterial infection in her heart. Nicky's mom says that usually comes from using a dirty needle. She tells Nicky that they also found traces of cocaine in her blood. She says, "Which is a fun new choice for you." Oh, Nicky. Nicky lies and tells her mom, "I had pneumonia. It must have spread or something." Trying to cover up her drug use, but no. Apparently, she's gotten this infection as a result of her drug use, one of the many pitfalls to drug use. She doubles down and tells her mom, "Seriously, I'm clean." Nicky's mom opens up her hospital gown and shows her the bandage on her chest. And she says sarcastically, "Well, you are now. You've had several blood transfusions during the surgery." So she's got a whole bunch of drug-free blood in her system. Nicky's mom turns to grab her purse, and that's when Nicky gets triggered. Nicky says, "What, you gotta call Paulo?" Her mother's boyfriend. She's like, "You need to make sure that he's surviving without your tit to suck on." So we see from here that Nicky and her mom also have a strained relationship. With that little statement, it seems like her mom may often choose her boyfriend over her. Her mom must be tired of hearing it because she flips around and says, "You are 26 years old. Isn't it time you gave up this angry I hate mom phase?" That's when Nicky says, "Holy shit. Oh, you're my mom." See, I could have sworn it was that brown woman who made me pancakes and read me Charlotte's Web at night. So clearly, Nicky's mom has been an absent mother for as long as she can remember. And over time, apparently 26 years, that's caused a huge strain in their relationship. I don't know why the mom doesn't see her part in that, but I totally understand Nicky's side. Nicky's mom becomes defensive. She says, "I did what was good for you." Nicky's like, "What, living with a nanny while you lived in a separate apartment with that prick who thought children carried germs? That was for my own good?" So yeah, her mom completely cast her aside to go live with her boyfriend and left her to be raised by the maid and wants to call herself a mother? No, I don't think so. Nicky tells her, "I think if you take a second to look at our current situation, you might reconsider because clearly it didn't work out that way." That's when her mother, again, getting defensive, says, "You know what? Keep blaming everyone but yourself, Nicole. It seems to be working out really well for you so far." What a great example of deflection from an absentee parent. That's when Nicky says, I always miss you until you're here, which, damn. I hate how relatable that line is. It's a gut punch, but I totally relate. So Nicky says, I always miss you until you're here. Then I realized the mom I miss must have been someone I invented when I was a kid. Yup, exactly. And the quicker that you understand that that is not the woman that stands before you, the quicker you can figure out a healthy way to move forward with that reality. Her mom says, I don't know what more you want from me, and walks away. So dismissive. Nicky says, I want you to do things mothers do. I don't know, hold me, give me sips of water, anything. Nicky just wants to be comforted by her mom, and her mom is not that kind of mom. She's just not willing to do that for her, which breaks my heart. That's when her mom stops and she shows a little bit of emotion here. Nicky's mom says, they told me you were going to die. That's when Nicky says, I'm done, okay? I'll stay clean. Like, I know, Mom. I'm not going to use drugs anymore, okay? I'm sorry. Her mom sighs and just shakes her head as she walks out the door. I don't think she believes her. In the next scene, we see Daya. She's walking outside with purpose. She's moving kind of swiftly, and she has like this angry look on her face. It looks like she's walking up on her mom. Her mom is walking ahead of her with Gloria and Maritza. Daya walks up on her and says, hey, Ma. And she slaps her across the face. Kind of like how her mom slapped her across the face when she first saw her in prison. Great callback. So Daya slaps her across the face and says, fucking slut. But Aleda's about that life, and she grabs Daya's hair and she flings her to the ground. Meanwhile, Gloria is telling her, Aleda, it's not worth it. Leave her alone. Don't get in trouble over this right now. Daya's lying on the floor and she's like, fucking bitch. That's when Gloria yells at Daya and she's like, yo, respect your mother. Because word, from the outside looking in, it's like, why are you rolling up on your mom, calling her outside her name and hitting her? Like, what is going on here? Respect your mom. But Gloria might not know what Aleda did last episode with Bennett in that closet. So I think we understand why Daya is doing this. But to Gloria, it just looks like Daya is completely out of pocket. Daya says, why? Why should I respect her? She never acted like no mom. Another bad mom. Well, we got 3 bad moms now. We need a bad mom tracker. We got Piper's mom, bad mom. We got Nicky's mom, bad mom. Now we got Daya's mom, bad mom. It's almost like if you have a bad mom, you just might end up in prison. So all the moms out there, let's be good to our children. The next thing that we see is CEO O'Neill. He's eating a little snack in Caputo's office. It looks like Caputo is questioning the guards, trying to find out what they know about the cell phone. O'Neill says, I got nothing. He doesn't know anything about the cell phone. When Caputo asks CEO Bell, she says, if I were you, I'd ask Mendez. He just looks guilty. Maybe it's the mustache. When Caputo asks CEO Bennett about the phone, he says to him, you have not observed or participated in any inappropriate activity or relation with an inmate, have you? Meanwhile, he's making sexual motions with his hands. And that's when Bennett immediately shakes his head like, nope, no, sir, not me. I wouldn't do that. Ha 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 ha. He clearly looks super nervous. That's when Caputo leans in and he says, because in here, inappropriate could mean a smile at the wrong time. Caputo tells Bennett, these women are hungry, if you get my meaning. Bennett's like, yes, sir. Caputo still feels the need to clarify. He's like, they want sex. That's what I mean. They want sex. And Bennett's like, yeah, I understand. Caputo says, good, we're done here. That's all I have to say. It seems like Caputo is trying to give him a little bit of a warning, like, don't get caught up with these girls. But will Bennett listen? We shall see. That's when Caputo gets a knock at the door. It's a new CO. We haven't met her yet. It's CO Susan Fisher. As she walks in, she's got a big old smile on her face. She's a young girl. Caputo has a big smile on his face, and he seems very excited to talk to her, almost nervous. Spoiler alert, he has a little crush on her. When she comes in and sits down, Caputo congratulates her on becoming a CO at Litchfield. Caputo tells Fisher that she's here to replace CO Thompson, who has been put on temporary/permanent leave after basically assaulting an inmate, resulting in the inmate having to wear an eye patch. So Fisher jokes and says, I'll keep my hands to myself, sir. And Caputo jokes back saying, except during strip searches, I hope, right? Huh? Little prison humor. Caputo tells her that he just wanted to welcome her to the team and wanted to bring her up to speed on their current crisis. That's when he brings her attention to the picture of the vajayjay. And she looks rightfully disturbed. That scene cuts, and we're back in the TV room with a nice diverse group of inmates. We see just about all groups represented here. We have Maritza and Flaca. They're sitting at a table listening to some Spanish music and playing dominoes. But Flaca changed the station. Maritza's like, why did you change it? She was in the middle of a groove. But Flaca says that reggaeton shit gives me a headache. It's the same thing over and over. She's looking for some music from the Smiths, apparently an 80s rock band, which Maritza calls pussy music. Over at Taystee and Pousse's table, Taystee is completely entertained by watching the shark show on her nature channel, but Poussey has had it. She's like, fuck this. She wants to watch the cooking channel. She's like, don't fuck with my cooking shows, T. But Taystee says with a smile on her face, it doesn't matter what you want to watch. I am president of the TV, and you can't do nothing about it, pussy. Which is where we get a classic Poussey line. She says, my name is Poussey. Accent a droit, bitch. And Taystee says, accent a what? Poussey says, it's French. Poussey is a place in France where my daddy served and Kings was born and shit. Like, put some respect on my name, all right? She's like, what the fuck you named after? Some bullshit cakes with cream in the middle? What a funny moment. Like, we know Poussey and Taystee to be these really, really great friends, but does anybody remember this moment? Taystee says, are you calling me a ho-ho? To which Poussey says, it's hostess, you dumbass. Man, you a fucking Swiss roll. What is going on? What is this? Over at the white table, we see Boo, Norma, and Morello. It looks like Norma and Boo are playing some sort of a makeshift Scrabble game while Morello is looking through magazines. Probably for something for her wedding. And Boo is yelling at Norma to hurry up and take her turn. Damn. Boo says, what, are you blind now too? I don't know if we've addressed it on the podcast yet, but Norma does not speak. She can speak, but she does not speak. She communicates with knowing looks, and sometimes she'll write things down, but the people closest to her can sort of communicate with her without her having to speak. So Boo says in this moment, what, are you blind now too? Which is very insensitive, not demure. Morello tries to give Norma a hint for the Scrabble game. She tells her, well, if you put the letter S at the end of the word knife, you can make slut going down. 15 points ain't bad. And Boo's like, hey, no cheating. Morello's like, I'm just helping her. And Boo's like, by the way, the plural of knife is knives. There's no such fucking word as knives. That's when Morello says, oh no? Well, then what does Tony do to Bernardo in West Side Story? I'll tell you what, he knifes him. Boo responds with, well, aren't you the plot spoiler? See, Morello's our people. We do spoilers over here. Boo tells Morello, here's a good idea. Why don't you mind your own fucking business and go back to planning your cute little hetero wedding? Boo says to her, hey, are you gonna get your dress off of eBay? Sure hope nobody scams you. That'd be fucking ironic. Because, spoiler alert, one of Morello's crimes was mail fraud. So her getting scammed from somebody from eBay would be very ironic. That triggered Morello. She jumps up and she says, don't you dare! That's when all hell breaks out in the TV room. Maritza and Flaca, Taystee and Poussey, Morello and Boo, they're all up arguing with each other, as well as everybody else in the room. It's complete chaos when Mr. Healy walks in. He's like, hey, you ladies need to start acting like ladies. So what's the problem in here? And again, the room goes in an uproar and everybody's like, she did this and she did that and blah, blah, blah. They're all yelling. Mr. Healy is like, ladies, I'm gonna bring back the Women's Advisory Council, the WAC. The camera goes over to Taystee when he says this, and she's got this look of hope in her eyes. Mr. Healy continues and he says, the first election will be held this Saturday. In the meantime, don't bother me and simmer down, okay? And they're all good. They're chill. When he leaves, Taystee says, it's on. Who's going to be Duchess of WAC? Taystee. Sounds like Taystee's going to be running for a spot on the council. She's very excited. In the next scene, we see Piper. She's sitting down at the white table in the cafeteria next to Nicky, across from Morello, and diagonally across from Alex. Morello is sitting there talking about how she's going to campaign for the WAC. She's talking about she wants to make buttons and make posters. She wants to use her wedding colors of yellow and pink for her campaign. She says that while she wants to use her wedding colors, she does not want to tell Christopher because she doesn't want him to get jealous. That's when Nicky says, of course not. You wouldn't want him to think that you liked pink in prison, right, Morello? Which we get her double meaning there. Morello just flips Nicky the bird. Nicky says, I still can't believe you're running for this lame shit. Morello's like, Red told me to. I'm her pick. Do you want me to say no to her? Nicky's face looks absolutely shocked, almost like she's hurt that Red didn't pick her. Yeah, Nicky says, she picked you? Morello's like, yeah, you got a problem with that? That's when we hear an uproar in the back of the cafeteria. It looks like it's the black table. They're screaming, Taystee, Taystee. And Taystee's up on the table like, Taystee, Taystee, before the guard comes to get her down, of course. That's when Piper turns around to Morello and she's like, so who are you running against besides Taystee? That's when Morello explained, she don't count. The black ladies just run against the other black ladies. My competition is Pennsatucky, but it don't even matter because Red's gonna make all the white girls vote for me. Nicky tells Piper you can only vote within your race or your group, which, yeah, that was explained in the beginning. It's a tribal system. Nicky says, just pretend it's the 1950s. It makes it easier to understand. Morello explains everyone elects a representative from their own tribe. White, black, Hispanic, Golden Girls, and others. Morello says, and then those 5 gals, the ones that win from each of those groups, they meet with Healy, they tell him what we want, and then he speaks to the higher ups. It's just like student council. But Piper's confused. Piper says, but how is that an effective system? Not every Hispanic person wants the same thing. Exactly, Piper. Here go the stereotypes. Morello says, well, sure they do. They all want to come to America. And Nicky says, Jesus, your entire worldview is based on West Side Story, isn't it? Maybe. But Alex is completely entertained. She says, can we get back to Lorna being racist? More of that, please. This is hilarious to her. So Lorna continues and she says, see, I know that about the Hispanics because my neighborhood is near them. She says that they live 20 people to one apartment. They have more kids than even the Irish. And the men like their women with big titties and big asses. They're dirty. They're greasy. Their food smells nasty. Jesus. And then she tops it all off with, and they're taking all our jobs. Oh my God. Somebody get this girl some help, please. I said in one of the earlier episodes that Morello is one of my favorite characters, and she is. I'm going to stick to that statement, but this is definitely one of her character flaws. She is very much misinformed, but I think that with more information and growth, maybe my girl Lorna won't be this way. This just reeks of ignorance to me. We then go back to the black table, and Taystee is saying, if y'all want a man representing you, be my fucking guest. Talking about Sophia. Which, obviously, more ignorance coming from this side of the room. Taystee goes on and says, that bitch got a plastic pussy or some shit. Oh, God, Taystee. But Sophia doesn't miss a beat. She says, you want to see it? Taystee says, please, you flash that shit like it's made out of diamonds. I done seen it about 10 times already today. Sophia says, listen, I know all you care about is what you get to watch on TV, but me and my diamond kitty here, we want to prioritize things around this place. Okay, Sophia, what do you want to do? Sophia says, like healthcare, basic human rights. All right. Taystee says, you ain't never going to change that shit. And that's a heartbreaking line, knowing how this story goes. She says, you think this is white people politics? And this is, I think, the first time where we're getting Taystee and Poussey doing their Mackenzie and Amanda impersonations. This is a little bit that they do at different points during their time at the prison. They code switch and they put on their quote unquote white voices and they take on these characters of Mackenzie and Amanda. So again, using stereotypes, right? So Taystee says, let's talk about healthcare, Mackenzie. And Poussey responds with, Oh, Amanda, I'd rather not. It's not polite. Taystee says, well, did you see that wonderful new documentary about the best sushi in the world? Of course, now that I'm vegan, I did not enjoy it as much as I might have before. Poussey jumps in and says, I just do not have the time. Chad and I have our yoga workshop, wine tasting class, and then we have to have really quiet sex every night at 9. Taystee says, but did you hear that new piece on NPR about hedge funds? Poussey says, Amanda, let me ask you, what do you think about my bangs these days? I mean, do you like them straight down or should I be doing more of a sweep to the side? Taystee says, a sweep to the side. They giggle and they start cracking up. And then the next table that we see is the Latina table. And Maritza says one of her classic lines, if you want more pizza, vote for Maritza. I guess she wants to use that for her campaign line, but Gloria tells her that shit is horrible. Maritza's like, I like pizza. Everyone likes pizza. It's American and shit. But Flocka says, it's Italian, you fucking idiot. It's another friend pairing that I don't remember them arguing this much in the beginning, but I guess here we are. Maritza says, what, you got something better? Flocka says, I'm gonna run. So all the ladies at the Latina table say, oh shit, it's on. Gloria calms all that down and she says, it don't matter who wins, all right? Just as long as you handle our shit. Like, as long as you're representing us, it really doesn't matter which one of you guys win. Maritza says, please, I can outshout any of these bitches. And that's where you hear the black table start getting loud, as we sometimes do. They start getting loud back there. And Maria says, are you sure? Meaning, are you sure you can be louder than them? And that's when the Latinas get on the stereotype theme. Flocka says, did you know they can't float? Meaning black people. Actually, I never heard that one before. Gloria says, what the hell are you talking about? Flocka insists it's true. Like in the swimming pool and shit, their bone density just ain't right for it. Oh my. More ignorance over here. The Latinas laugh at her, but she's like, yo, my uncle told me that. That's when Aleda says, that shit is crazy. Aleda goes on to say, they're smelly, stupid, and lazy, but they ain't got different bones. Like, be real. Jesus. All these stereotypes. That's when Maria says, yo, except for in their pants, yo, them black boys, they got some serious trouser meat. Like, whoa. And they all agree with that stereotype. But they're all just a bunch of ignorant stereotypes, to be honest. Every single table had them. And every single table is wrong because no one group is a monolith. And then the whole cafeteria is in an uproar. They're all loud and carrying on, dancing, and they're being silly. I like to see these little moments when they're being silly, though. I like it when they have a little bit of joy in this horrible place. In the next scene, we see Red. She's cleaning the kitchen as Nicky walks in. Nicky's just pouting. She literally looks like a little girl that's like, going to go complain to her mom. When Red sees her like a mom, she says, well, don't be an observer, grab a rag. Throws her a rag so she can help clean the kitchen. Nicky eventually asks Red, why'd you choose Lorna to run for WAC and not me? Red's like, you're questioning my decision? And Nicky, still pouting and acting like a child, she goes, well, only in the most respectful way you could possibly imagine. I thought I was like your Spock. Which is a funny little nod to the actress that plays Red, Kate Mulgrew. Shout out to you, girl. You are fantastic, by the way, Kate. Or Miss Mulgrew. Let me just take a minute to say, Miss Mulgrew, that you are amazing on this show. And you're acting as Red from the beginning to the end. The way she changes and all the things that she goes through. Oh my goodness. Amazing, amazing. Beautiful acting. This little line about, I thought I was your Spock, was a little nod to her. Because she actually acts in Star Trek, which is the show the character Spock is from. So that was really cute writing there. And when Nicky tells Red that she thought that she was her Spock, Red says, my what? Like, what are you even talking about? I don't even know what you're talking about. Which again, very funny considering the actress Kate Mulgrew is literally on Star Trek. Nicky clarifies to say, your right hand, your girl Friday, your VP. I thought it was you and me. Red says, Lorna is pretty and unthreatening. I like her lipstick, and she listens. The last thing you need is a public forum. You're already too mouthy for your own good. Said like only a mom can. Even Nicky has to admit it. She's like, yeah, I know, but like, I still want to do it. Red says, don't confuse being my daughter with getting a vote. Like, just because I chose Lorna for this does not change anything in our relationship. We're still good. That's when Mendez walks into Red's kitchen and he is menacingly dropping little pieces of pasta all over her countertops where she literally just finished cleaning. Red's like, do you need something? He doesn't say a word to her, ignores her question, continues throwing pasta all over the kitchen, and then opens up a box of oats. When he reaches in the box of oats, he pulls out a plastic bag with 3 mechanical toothbrushes inside. So this is our first indication of Red smuggling things in through her kitchen, but she's not smuggling in drugs. She's smuggling in comforts for the women. In this case, toothbrushes. Mendez says sarcastically, wow, this prize sure beats the heck out of a decoder ring. Red says, what can I say? The girls are very concerned about their oral hygiene. Sure, Red. He turns the toothbrush on, so now it's vibrating, and he holds it up to her face and he says, are you bringing in cell phones too? She says, absolutely not. That's when he starts getting super inappropriate with Red. He asks her if she's taking pictures of herself to send to her husband. He's asking her if the curtains match the drapes. And Red and Nicky in the background look extremely worried and uncomfortable, scared, but holding their ground. And this is where we get the motivation that Mendez has for figuring out who brought in the phone. He says that this issue is slowing up his business, which is the drug business, and he doesn't like competition. He taps Red on the nose with a toothbrush, makes her flinch before he turns and walks out of the kitchen. So it seems like the only reason why Mendez is even concerned about finding the phone is because all of these extra searches are making it difficult for him to bring in drugs, which is what he really cares about. So I guess he's going to go try to find this phone by any means necessary. In the next scene, we see Daya walking into the storage closet where she's meeting Bennett. They're making bad choices again. Bennett is telling Daya that Caputo grilled him about inappropriate relationships for 5 hours today. It looks like he's starting to get worried about what they've got going on. He's saying, this is inappropriate, what we're doing. But Daya says, it's going to be fine, baby. Bennett's like, I think we have different definitions of fine. He's like, I'm about to lose my job and your mom was literally naked. That's when Daya asks him, she's like, but you didn't do anything with her, right? Like, you didn't fuck her. And he's like, wait, what? No, I don't want your mom, Daya. I want you. So Daya gets her shiny, bright love eyes again, and she goes in for the kiss, and they're making out in the closet. It looks like Daya's trying to take it to third base. And so when she kneels down, she pulls down his pants and reveals that one of his legs is a prosthetic from the knee down. He seems like he was really embarrassed by that. He wanted to do everything to not let her see that. But she insisted, and when she saw it, I guess he thought maybe she might reject him, but she just kisses his legs. She's completely accepting of it, and it doesn't make a difference to her. The next thing that we see is Piper. She's walking into Mr. Healy's office, and he's telling her to close the door behind her. Piper looks over at his desk, and she sees the vajayjay picture sitting there, and she's got a face like, what the hell? When Piper turns around, Mr. Healy is holding up 2 dresses, a red one and a blue one. Mr. Healy asks Piper to stand up and hold the red one up to herself. And she does so, kind of like, okay. Like, this is a weird request. He looks at her for about 5 seconds and he's like, okay. And now the blue, and he holds that one up to her. She holds it, like, all right. That's when Mr. Healy fills Piper in, telling her that these dresses are options for his wife and that it's their anniversary tomorrow. He says he likes the blue one better and thanks her for helping him. Not that she really had a choice. Mr. Healy asks Piper to have a seat and he says, Chapman, we understand each other, don't we? And she's like, yeah, I think so. Mr. Healy says, I agree. I think the two of us working together, I think we could really turn some things around. You trying to make an alliance with an inmate, Mr. Healy? The two of them just look at each other and Piper's like, oh, so you want me to run for WAC? Mr. Healy is just beaming. He's like, we don't get ladies as bright as yourself in here very often. And Piper, her face looks very bright, very much like a teacher's pet. And she's like, Thank you, Mr. Healy. I really appreciate that. I really do. But I'm trying this new thing where I stay out of the spotlight. I think that's a better bet for me. Good luck with that, Piper. Mr. Healy tries again. He's like, listen, I'm giving you a chance to make your time count here, Chapman. And Piper says, thank you, but I need to politely decline. Mr. Healy tells her, well, I'm disappointed. It's certainly not like I can force you to run anyways, right? And Piper's looking at him like, actually, I don't know. Can you? We'll stick a pin in that one. We'll get back to that. In the next scene, we're outside of the prison with Larry. He's talking to his boss and he's trying to get his article off the ground, but his boss is not really interested in his article about orgasms and edging. Larry's boss says, what's the deal with your wife? Is she really in prison? Larry corrects him. He's like, my fiance. She is, and it sucks. So his boss decides to make it an assignment. He's like, you want an assignment? Here's an assignment. My wife is in prison. And Larry's like, my fiance. Larry's boss thinks that's the story for him, so that's his assignment. Find out more about Piper's time in prison. In the next scene, we're back at the prison and we're in the multipurpose room. You know, I really like these big scenes with so many of the different groups represented. I think probably because I love so many people in various groups. I definitely have faves in every single group in the prison. So as a fan, it's really fun to see them all interacting together. I bet those days on set were probably fun too. So the first thing that we're seeing is Tiffany. She's having Leanne hang up a cross in the multipurpose room. This time it's just a cardboard cross. It says, he died for your sins. Make sure Tiffany wins. Leanne turns to Tiffany and she's like, ain't we learned our lesson about hanging crosses, Tucky? Word, because y'all just messed up the chapels. I would think that you learned your lesson by now, but maybe not. Tiffany responds to Leanne with, ain't we learned our lessons about mouthing off? Now get out the way. She pushes Leanne out the way and gets up on the chair to try to fix the cross herself. Tiffany tells Leanne, if you keep this up, God's going to start questioning your devotion. He told me. You got the main line? Tiffany got the main line to God, y'all. In another corner of that room, we see Taystee and Poussey, and Taystee's practicing her beauty pageant wave. And Poussey's like, look at you, all power hungry and shit. Pretty funny considering the events of season 5. Over by Nicky and Piper, Nicky is annoyed. She's like, this fucking election. Like, we need this place to be any more like high school. When Alex walks into the multipurpose room, Morello is trying to feed her some campaign snacks. Some little things that it looks like she baked up for, her campaign. Piper is busy noticing Alex, and Nicky is noticing Piper noticing Alex. And so she goes, speaking of high school, because of their little Piper and Alex drama. Piper says, I feel like such an asshole. Why won't she even look at me? That does sound like high school. Nicky's like, because you were an asshole. Everyone has their limits. Nicky offers Piper some advice. She tells her that she doesn't know Alex as well as Piper does, but as far as she can see, Alex can smell bullshit from a mile away. So she tells Piper to just cut out the needy puppy act and be straight with her. She's like, just say you're sorry for being a dick. That's when Morello tells Alex that she needs to come up with a slogan, something that rhymes. So Alex just says off the top of her head, well, what about vote for Morello because she's not yellow, she's white. Okay. This prison loves to draw racial lines. Tribal lines. While I don't think it was a very good slogan or very funny, Piper did, and she chuckles. Alex notices Piper's chuckle, but she still doesn't speak to her. Piper looks disappointed that she still hasn't gotten Alex to talk to her. She looks off to the side pretty dejectedly. That launches us into a Piper and Alex backstory scene. It looks to be back in the times when they were dating and Alex is throwing a party at their apartment. Polly is there. I don't think I've ever been happy to see Polly, but I guess it's nice to see a familiar face. Polly comes over to Piper and Alex and she's like, this place is insane. That's when Alex says, great to meet you, Holly. And Polly's like, it's Polly, actually. That's when Alex notices a mystery man across the room. She excuses herself from the ladies and says she has to go play hostess. When Alex walks away, Piper is basically apologizing for her. She's like, sorry, Alex is better in smaller groups. And Polly's like, you think then maybe she'll remember my name? Piper says to her, are you being pissy because I'm seeing a woman? And Polly's like, I'm being pissy because you're seeing an asshole. Polly is picking up on the vibes, not for nothing. She says, there's a weird energy in here. Not to mention, she's loaded and she's like, what, 30? She's like, the vibe is off. And this girl has so much money from what? Like, what does she even do? What is going on? Something is weird here. And she's not wrong. Gotta give it up to Polly for that one. She's not wrong. It seems like Piper already knows what Alex does because when Polly is trying to figure it out, Piper says, no, she imports things. But anyways, just completely jumping right over that. Let's not dig into what she imports. She imports things. She says, anyways, I can't believe you're giving me shit for this. You dated your teacher. Piper's like, I really like her. But Polly says, do you like her or her things? Piper's like, back off. I'm happy. Just leave it alone. And that's when Polly tells her, well, then don't expect me to be there when you're not happy anymore. Well, I guess that explains why Polly's such a horrible friend. She told her up front, listen, if this thing goes left, I'm not going to be there for you, which I think is kind of shitty, but also she was upfront about it. So boundaries? So Alex and the mystery man went into some back room of her apartment and he's telling her, we'd like to increase your output. They want to increase her output to $100,000 a month. 100,000 what? Dollars or a certain amount of drugs? I don't really know what that is, but 100,000. Alex looks a little bit overwhelmed, but she's like, well, if that's what you want me to do, then I'm going to need some more resources. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. Cooper will approve it. We really value your role in this organization. To which Alex says, great. I'm glad I'm not expendable. Oh, girl, they are going to throw you under the bus as soon as they need to. That transitions us back to the prison where Nicky and Alex are each getting out of their showers. When Nicky steps out, she has her towel covering her chest, but you can still see the scar from her surgery. When Alex notices it, she's like, that's a hell of a scar. To which Nicky just says, pervert. And Alex follows that up with, well, I like your tits too. And Nicky playfully jiggles them for her under her towel. So Alex is asking Nicky about her surgery, and she correctly guesses that it probably came from drug use. So Nicky's like, are you a drug pusher or a heart surgeon? And Alex is like, just the former. She's telling Nicky that this sort of a surgery was pretty common among their top customers, which I think I'm just now putting that together. It's pretty interesting that Alex has developed this friendship with Nicky and she's seeing firsthand what her actions of being a drug pusher did to some of her clients. Alex asks Nicky if she misses the drugs. And Nicky's like, holy shit, so much. I miss it more than anything. Alex tells Nicky that she misses the adrenaline and the power of running the business of drugs. Alex says, look at us, Nichols. Same coin, different sides. Yeah, I can see that. Nicky says, supply and demand, motherfucker. There you go. Alex is the supply. Nicky's the demand. A fun little detail that I'm noticing here as they're having this conversation at the bathroom sinks, I can hear Blanca in her stall talking to Diablo. Just in the background. We don't see her, but I hear her. That's when Piper walks into the bathroom. She's holding her toilet paper, waiting for the stall. And finally, Blanca opens the door. But when she sees Piper, she quickly goes right back in. Like, nope, as a matter of fact, I'm not done yet. You can wait some more. And so Piper is just left standing there, looking longingly at Alex, who's talking to Nicky. Piper finally musters up the courage to say, hi, Alex. Alex looks at her, but she still says absolutely nothing to Piper. The next thing that we see is Piper back at the phone banks trying to call Polly again. And this time she finally picks up. She's like, you're lucky that you caught me in a hormonal upswing. Plus, I needed a distraction because I'm in the stirrups. She's at a doctor's appointment for her baby. Polly's like, am I a good friend or what? Y'all know what I think. Or what? Absolutely not, girl. But Piper says, you are. You're the best friend. Piper tells her that she's so sorry for talking about the chicken, and Polly stops her and she says, how about we don't ever talk about the chicken like ever again? Piper tells Polly, it's so weird in here. I wish I could explain it to you. So of course, Polly has to try to one-up her. She says, well, I have an asshole alien growing inside me, and I'm waiting for a strange man to put his hand up my vagina, which I'm pretty sure I prefer to my husband's, which, red flag, that's going to come back. Why is this girl openly hating on her husband while she's carrying his baby? Polly tells Piper, we could have a weird off. And Piper says, God, I miss you so much. And Polly says, I miss you too, Pipe. So Piper tries to figure out what's going on with Barney's now. She's like, so, about Barney's. And Polly's like, nope, you forfeited your right to talk about the business for a while. I'm going to be taking care of it from here on out. Thank you very much. Polly asks Piper what's going on with her and Alex. Piper says, I feel like I need to tell her I'm sorry. She goes on to say, I feel like I need to tell everyone that I'm sorry. Piper Chapman, the apology tour. Polly tells Piper that she loves her, and Piper says she loves her too. Piper says, so you're done being mad at me? Polly says, yes. Now I have to go get probed. Have a nice rest of your day at prison. Which, nice, Polly. When Piper hangs up the phone, she's crying. So much so that the weeping woman, who is of course standing right beside her, offers her a tissue. Isn't that sweet? That transitions us back into the multipurpose room where the political campaigns are in full swing. We hear Morello saying, don't be yellow, vote for Morello, which I guess is the slogan that she landed on. We also hear Sophia. She's saying, my friends, we might be incarcerated, but that does not mean we are not entitled to fair treatment and access to comprehensive medical care. And in another area, we see Maritza talking about, we'll have pizza on Tuesdays. But Flocka's like, fuck pizza, we're going to have Tuesday tacos. In another area, we have Tiffany addressing her group of constituents. She starts out and she's like, most of y'all know me as Tiffany, only a few Pennsatucky, and we're going to leave it that way. And again, we're back to Sophia and she's saying, so I hope you all will let me lead you, in addition to letting me do your weave at a discount, girl. So she's offering discounted hair care in exchange for votes. That's when Taystee gets up. She's standing on a chair with Poussey right beside her. And she says, as lady president, I'll demand waterbeds for everybody. She says, we'll be dreaming like Beyonce on a yacht every night up in here. Comprehensive that, bitches. So that's when Trisha, Mercy's girlfriend, walks over to Porn Stash, aka Mendez. And she says, yo, you got my shit? She's looking for drugs. Apparently he's her supplier. He tells her that it's coming, and she's like, well, hurry it up. My cousin paid you for that shit. Ain't it supposed to come in today? Like, you got your money. Where's my stuff? That's when Mendez says to her, if you speak to me again, I will fucking crush you. I mean, just straight up abusive language, threats, and everything else from these guards. Disgusting. Again, he tells her, it's coming. Just chill out. So she walks off, but she's clearly not happy about the delay. When Piper and Miss Claudette walk in on all the campaigning, Piper's like, whoa, I'm shocked that the admins actually allow this to go on. And Miss Claudette says, those boys have awfully short memories. Miss Claudette explains the white girl who won last time got flocked when she asked the commissary to stock unsalted potato chips instead of salt and vinegar. Miss Claudette says, it's not a job you want. People are going to be upset. It's not easy to please all these people. It's kind of dangerous, actually. So you don't really want this position. Back to the campaigns, Taystee is saying, and why don't we have Ultra Sheen in the commissary? She's like, yeah, ask me, that shit is racist. Poussey's next to her like, fucking racist. Taystee says, why you gotta hate black folks? Miss Claudette comments and she says, you gotta admire their efforts though. Every damn inmate is here. That's when Piper has a look of realization and she's like, I'll see you later, and runs off. We go back to Taystee and she's saying, in closing, let's get some motherfucking fried chicken up in here once in a while. She's like, yeah, I said it. Poussey's next to her like, she said it. Taystee says, I'm black. Poussey's like, she's black. And we all like fried chicken. Taystee's like, that shit is delicious. Everybody likes it. Chicken for the people. I rest my case. So I guess Taystee's platform is fried chicken. And the girls are just clapping and cheering for her. It seems like they are really down with this chicken platform. Sophia is looking around like, are y'all kidding me right now? Y'all are gonna vote for chicken? This is really happening? Y'all don't want healthcare? Oh, this all sounds so very familiar. Why does this sound so familiar? I don't know. Anyways, make sure you guys go out and vote. They close that scene out with Tiffany saying, well, I think we should have a whites only bathroom. And some of the girls get riled up because of that. Taystee responds by saying, this ain't the help, bitch, but you will eat my shit. Referencing the movie The Help, which also dealt with race relations. So we're out of the multipurpose room and we see where Piper ran off to. She went to finally use the bathroom in peace. Since Miss Claudette brought to her attention that all the inmates were in the multipurpose room with all the campaigning, Piper saw this as her perfect opportunity to finally use the bathroom in peace. But while she's peeing, she starts to hear a buzzing, like the sound of a phone vibrating. She starts looking all around the bathroom and eventually she finds a loose tile. And what's behind it? But a cell phone. Spoiler alert, the cell phone that Blanca's using to call Diablo. That's how and who she's talking to in that stall all the time. So I'm pretty sure that picture that's being passed around is hers. When Piper sees the phone, she's in absolute disbelief. She's like, oh my God, a phone? It's probably been weeks since she's seen a cell phone. Even though it's a flip phone, it's a phone. So she flips it open and goes right to photos. And what does she see? But the exact JJ picture that's being passed around the prison. So it looks like Piper accidentally solved the mystery. We know where the phone is, who it belongs to, and we have a pretty good idea of who's in the picture. That brings us right back to the multi-purpose room where, yes, it looks like every inmate is in there. I see just about everybody represented in this room. They're all standing in a circle, and it looks like they're having some sort of a rap battle. Another classic scene in Orange. We hear Taystee start out, and she's like, they call me Taystee 'cause my pussy be delicious. Like an apple, it's nutritious. Like a Clinton, it's ambitious. You wanna mess with all that? Bitch, please. Use a gnat. You'll go splat. Best be running stat. And they're all having a good time. They're getting all riled up. The guards are just standing back and standing by. Everything is fine. The new guard, C.O. Fletcher, is looking over at the girls and she's laughing as Caputo comes up behind her like, it's kind of crazy, but hey, it's our crazy. Next up in the rap battle circle is Leanne. And she says, my name is Leanne and I got game. We're in Litchfield and it's kind of lame. This rapping thing don't seem so hard. It ain't like I'm a fucking retard. Dear Lord. I'm just saying the words in the show. Y'all know I don't like that word. And here comes Poussey with another word I'm not a fan of. Poussey says, fucking dumbass cracker should just smack ya. Think you own Jesus, turns out he was black. Ayy! The word is ironic. Me, I'm deep like Atlantis, rhyming some chronic shit then pray like a mantis. Matter of fact, I'm so done with your white trash ass. Just 'cause you got little tits don't mean you got class. And the room erupts into like an uproar. They're all going, ooh. And Suzanne's like, that's my shit. Then we see Piper and she's walking through the white dorms. She walks up on Red and she's like, oh my God, can you believe it's so quiet? Red is busy reading a book and she just mouths to Piper, go away. Piper says, sorry, and ends up going by Alex's bunk. Because no one's around, she walks right on in and sits down on Alex's bed. And she's rubbing Alex's pillow. She picks it up. She starts smelling it. She's hugging it. It seems like there's a lot more to Piper's feelings for Alex than she's letting on right now. That brings us right back to the multi-purpose room where they have a dance circle going on now. And we have Boo in the center. Boo is wilding out, okay? She's dancing and she took off her shirt and the crowd is going wild. She is wilding out and then she pulls over Chang and she starts thrusting consensually. She looks like she's having a great time. Suzanne seems very into Boo's dance, and when Boo gets down on the ground to continue thrusting, Suzanne flips Boo over and starts to join her. But this time, I don't think it's very consensual. Boo does not look like she's enjoying this. That's when Mr. Healy walks in and he's outraged. We know how he feels about lesbians, so to see Suzanne and Boo on the ground grinding, yeah, Mr. Healy is not happy. So he turns off the lights and immediately the girls quiet down. It's dark and it's quiet in the multi-purpose room. They cut that scene, and the next thing that we see is Daya walking outside to meet Bennett by their spot. Daya hands Bennett another picture that she drew. This time is of a woman, probably of herself, but the woman in the picture has a prosthetic arm. It looks almost like a robot arm, actually. Very talented drawing, by the way. Bennett likes it. He says, wow, thanks. Daya is letting Bennett into her world a little bit. She's telling him about how when she was little, she liked to look at the girls in the comic books and try to draw them. She's telling Bennett how she thought that they were just like Disney princesses, only prettier. Daya tells Bennett, my friends thought that they were lame, but I liked that they were different. She tells him, I guess that I'm a freak or whatever. And then she goes, not that you're a freak because of your legs. Leg. She's stumbling over her words. She wants to basically let him know that she feels okay and secure and good and still attracted to him with knowing that he has a prosthetic leg, but she's stumbling all over her words here. We get their little romantic music. I think this is their theme. I'm going to call this the Daya and Bennett theme. Do they even have a couple name? Let's call them Baya. This is the Baya theme. So they close out that scene with the Baya theme and the two of them standing there smiling at each other. In the next scene, we see Piper stepping up to vote for the WAC in Mr. Healy's office. As soon as she steps up to place her vote, Mr. Healy says, thanks for the advice yesterday. My wife loved it. And Piper's looking at him like, okay, like I didn't really do anything, but cool, I guess. All of the girls in line behind Piper to vote are looking at her like, what the heck you got going on with Mr. Healy? Especially Tiffany, to be honest. They kind of lingered on Tiffany's reaction. That brings us to the back of the visitation room where Piper is visiting with Larry. Larry tells Piper that his boss wants him to write about her. Larry says he thought that I should write about you, about our experience. And Piper's like, excuse me, our experience? She's like, I'm sorry, but has it been difficult for you in here? Larry says, you're not the only person having a hard time, Piper. And Piper's like, ugh, I hate your stern voice. Piper's like, I'm sorry I'm taking it out on you. I just need some time to figure out how I feel about you writing an article about me being in here. And Larry's like, of course, you need time to process. I can respect that. Take your time. She's not so sure that she wants a public article out about her being in prison, which I understand that. And so does Larry. That's when Larry asks Piper, so, is everything going good with Alex? Just fishing to find out if she's cheated on him. Piper says, yeah, it's fine. It's good. We don't talk. Nothing to see here. Larry looks very satisfied with himself. He's like, good. That's great. That's when we hear Blanca run into the visitation room and she's like, Diablo. And she gives this man a great big hug. And that's how we find out that's Diablo. And that's the Diablo that she's talking to. Piper's like, oh, that's Diablo? And so Larry's like, Diablo, what's going on over there? Piper tells Larry how she found the phone in the bathroom and there was a picture of her vajayjay on there. So Piper put two and two together real quick and figured out that she's not crazy. She's on the phone talking to Diablo. So now that Piper's figured out what Blanca's got going on in the bathroom stall with the phone and Diablo, she doesn't think she's crazy anymore. She thinks she's brilliant, which she kind of is. In the next scene, we are in Mr. Healy's office and Caputo is verifying the results of the election. So we see more of the non-involved side of Caputo here when he says to Mr. Healy, so you still can't tell the fish kissers who's boss, can you, Samantha? All kinds of misogynistic and homophobic things going on in that statement. Mr. Healy simply says, I've asked you repeatedly not to call me that. His name is Sam, but Caputo is calling him Samantha to demean him. But Mr. Healy explains this isn't about giving them power. He tells Caputo, this is about your mother telling you could take a bath before dinner or after. You were still going to get wet, but you thought you had a choice. So he's doing a little psychology with these women. It doesn't seem like he intends on letting them have any real power, but the illusion of power and the illusion of having a say, he feels like that could help to quiet things down around the prison a bit. But Mr. Caputo brushes all that off. He tells Mr. Healy, I have no fucking idea what that means, but I do know you just basically built a prisoners union. And he turns to walk out the door, but before he opens it, he turns and looks at Mr. Healy and says, Samantha, horrible. The disrespect. We're back in the cafeteria and the ladies are eating dinner awaiting the results of the election. Morello is sitting at the table acting like she's so nervous for the results to come in. And Piper's like, why are you nervous? I thought the whole point of Red endorsing you was that you're definitely going to win. To which Nicky says, don't mind her. She's just playing coy. It's a talent of hers. Nicky always has to get a jab in. That's when Red comes over with 2 pieces of coconut cake. She says that it was a recipe from Miss Claudette, so that's some legit coconut cake. She sets a piece down in front of Nicky and one in front of Lorna, and she says that it's in celebration of Lorna winning the election, even though the results still haven't come in yet. So since Nicky's still annoyed with Red for choosing Morello to be the candidate instead of her, she decides to critique the cake. And so she says, should coconut be beige? Red looks at her and smacks her in the back of her head like your mom would back in the day. Just a quick pop to the back of the head. And Red's like, fine, no cake for you, little girl, big mouth, and takes her cake away. Like Seinfeld, no soup for you, no cake for you. Alex says to Nicky, I don't know how you deal with her. But that's when we see a flashback scene to a time that I believe is probably close to when Nicky got to the prison. It looks like she's going through serious drug withdrawals. And who's helping her through it? But Red. It looks like Nicky just finished vomiting and she's shivering and trembling. But Red is right beside her, just holding her, rubbing her face with cold water and telling her, you gotta hit rock bottom before you know which direction to go in. I hope you guys are going back and rewatching the show because this scene is something that you really gotta see. I'm literally holding back tears because the amount of love that Red is showing for Nicky here in the situation is just pure mother's love. You know, Red is caring for Nicky in the exact way that Nicky wished that her mother would have cared for her. I'm really sorry that Nicky didn't have that with her mom, but I'm really glad that she has it with Red. And honestly, it's really touching to me. Red says, welcome to the floor, kid. It'll be better from now on. Got nowhere to go but up, I guess. And just like a real mom, Red says to Nicky earnestly, and what I'll do to you if you use again will hurt a lot more than this. Like, girl, I'm going to help you through this, but you better not mess this up again. I don't want to see you like this. Please do better. And that scene ends with Nicky giving Red the biggest hug. She just falls into her arms like a kid and a mom. It's just, Nicky needed that. Nicky needed to feel like someone was in her corner, like somebody cared about her. And so I'm glad that Red was able to be that for her. And since this is the first instance of me crying on the podcast, I think maybe we should have a little tally of that because this show definitely moves me often. And Nicky and her mom dynamics definitely hit me in that way. So anyways, I hope you guys get a chance to go back and look at that scene because it's a good one. Amazing acting from both Kate Mulgrew, the actress who plays Red, as well as Natasha Lyonne, the actress who plays Nicky. Just bravo to you ladies. That was beautiful. So when we come out of that flashback, we're back in the cafeteria and the election results are about to be read over the loudspeaker. Morello looks over at Nicky and she's like, how do I look? You know, preparing for her moment of when she wins. And Nicky looks at her, brushes her hair back and says, don't worry, kid. You're going to be great. Nicky loves that girl. It's so clear. So the announcement starts and the man says, your WAC leaders are Ruiz. And the ladies in the cafeteria are like, okay, which Ruiz? There's a bunch of Ruizes in here. And that's when the loudspeaker clarifies and says, Maria Ruiz. And she's absolutely shocked because she was not even running. How did Maria win? Maritza and Flocka are pissed. They're like, what the fuck? The next name that's read over the loudspeaker is Jefferson. And Taystee jumps up. She's like, Taystee is prison president, bitches. And Sophia gets up and storms out. She cannot even. The next name that's read off is Chang, and it's explained that she will be representing both the others and the Golden Girls. So she's representing for both the older ladies, the Golden Girls, as well as the others, which I guess are all other ethnicity groups. And Chang is Asian, so represent. The last name read over the loudspeaker is Chapman. That's right. Piper won for the white girls. And she looks terrified. Everyone in the cafeteria is looking around like, how the hell did she win? I didn't vote for her. Did you vote for her? I didn't vote for her. Morello is pissed. She's like, but you didn't even run. Red looks pissed. And Piper looks so scared, like, oh my God, what the hell did I just get myself into now? And she didn't even do anything this time. That's when we get our orange screen, which indicates the end of the episode. So I guess we'll find out what kind of trouble Piper got into with this election next episode and how she won in the first place. So again, IMDb rated this episode as 7.8. I think this is probably my favorite episode so far. And since I rated episode 3 an 8.3, I'll have to go higher than that for this one. So I'm going to give this episode, let's say, yeah, why not? We'll give this one an 8.5. I said it. I'll give this episode an 8.5. I think it was a really good episode. Even though I don't enjoy stereotypes in real life, in media, it's actually quite funny, especially when it's done so well, being that, it's widespread. It's kind of fair game for any group. I also enjoy the episodes where we get to see so many of all the different groups, and we definitely saw that with this episode. So this episode is definitely an 8.5 for me. Next week, we will be covering season 1, episode 7. I can't believe we're moving right along. Episode 7, titled Blood Donut. The IMDb synopsis for that episode says, former high school track star Janae Watson returns from solitary confinement. Okay, we're getting Janae back. Piper wants to reopen the outdoor track, but Healy forces her to fulfill several potentially dangerous tasks before he will consider it. Alex's teasing of a religious fanatic named Tiffany Pennsatucky Doggett sparks a rivalry. So next week, we will be getting Janae back from SHU, which should be interesting. We'll also be getting our first backstory from her. And we'll see Piper try to get some things done around the prison, which should be interesting as well. So I'll see y'all back here same time, same place next week. Thanks for hanging with me in Yadda Space. Don't forget to comment your favorite lines from the episode and let me know what your personal rating is for this week's episode. Again, mine was an 8.5, my highest so far. But what do you think? I would love to hear yours. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. If you aren't already, please make sure you are following the Yadda Space Pod on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, TikTok, so you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, like the theme song says, it's Yadda Space with 2 E's. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll catch up with y'all next time here at Yadda Space.
Hey, welcome friends to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda here, let's set the pace. This is a rewatch podcast, so let's begin. Orange is the new black is where we dive in. Taystee's wisdom sets the tone. Jose's heart feels like home. Nicky's got that quick one fire. Morello's love of love lifts us higher. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fast, please come aboard. Susie's special mind, they'll all these ideas because they think if everything's truly as it is. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Red's kitchen rules the game. Gloria's strength, she keeps the flame. Our latest hustle never quits. Looks the tales are gems every bit. Every episode we'll discuss.